I am Adarsh, MC of today's session. The incidence for fraud is now so common that its occurrence is no longer remarkable on its scale. The traditional role of a chartered accountant, auditing, requires us to be well aware of what is going on in and around. We, being articles, must help our principal in bringing out most reliable and fair financial statements. In order to bring in proactiveness and to enhance our knowledge on the same, Sikasa Bangalore has organized a session on audit preparation, working papers and documentation. Before proceeding with the session, I now request Treasurer of ICI Bangalore branch, CA BT Shetty sir, to escort our chief guest, CA Cyrus Bharucha sir, onto the dais, and CA Abdul Majeed sir onto the dais with the bouquet. Now I request BT Shetty sir to welcome the gathering.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hearty welcome to each one of you for this study circle of audit preparation, working paper and documentation. Today we are fortunate to have as our chief guest CA Cyrus Bharucha. Even in this busy schedule, on our invitation he agreed and he is here with us. Please welcome him with a You are welcome, sir. We have another eminent speaker, CA Abdul Majeed. He also, even with this busy schedule, made available for us. Please welcome with a round of applause. Friends, audit documentation, audit preparation and working papers is most important. Audit documentation, with that only you are able to prove the outside world what work you have done. The importance gives to any auditor. You people are the main person while conducting the audit in your firm. So Sikasa Bangalore thought it is appropriate to teach you and equip you to understand the documentation audit preparation. That is how this program planned. Even though the number is less, better you take the advantage of the experts' knowledge and happy learning on that. Coming to Sikasa conducting several programs. All depends, the success depends on your active participation. So I humbly request each one of you to take note of that and inform your friends and colleagues in your office and make use of those programs and equip yourself for future bright chartered accountants. So Sikasa also conducting every week one Sikasa Speakers Forum. Every Sunday morning they conduct that program. How many of you are aware of that? Very few. It's very sad part. It's more than 60 meetings, I think more than a year now. So every week Sunday morning that program happens in Racecourse Road building of ICI. So it is a pre-program. Morning 8 a.m. starts up to 10 o'clock. It is basically to develop your oral communication skill and leadership development skill. So it is a free program conducted by Sikasa Bangalore. Even though it costs a lot of money to the branch and the Sikasa, it is we thought it is good to develop those skills for the students in this stage. Once you qualify, you don't find time to develop all those basic skills. It is most important nowadays to become a successful chartered accountant. Make use of that program. I think currently Lakshmi is the president of that forum. So you can make use of that and attend those programs as many times as possible and learn those skills. With that, once again, I welcome you all for this today's program and enjoy learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the warm welcome. Light represents positivity and good spirits. Light brings forth knowledge and dispels ignorance. Let us light the lamp now and inaugurate the session with positivity and good spirit. Cyrus Bharucha, sir, qualified as a chartered accountant in the year 1982. He is a fellow member of the institute with over 36 years post-qualification experience in the profession at K&M LLP. Sir is responsible for the entire practice in the southern region of India, the areas of audit and assurance services, direct and indirect taxes compliance and advisory, and GRIC. Sir has worked with broad range of multinational clients in the public and private sector, developed strong expertise in managing and coordinating audit and transaction support assignments in an international environment for a wide range of industry. Sir has expertise in domestic authorities for domestic and multinational corporate clients. Sir conducts courses and seminars on varied subjects from accounting for non-finance personnel to motivational programs for junior and middle-level executives. Sir has also addressed several seminars on varied subjects including doing business in India, organized under the patronage of UK Trade and Investment. Sir has also addressed members of Taiwan Electronics and Electrical Manufacturers Association and Singapore Business Federation. Please put your hands together and welcome our chief guest for the day, CA Cyrus Bharucha, sir.
Treasurer of Sikasa, learning speaker Abdul Majeed, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. The topic chosen for today is indeed quite significant as far as the auditing profession of chartered accountant goes. When we define an audit, audit is an independent examination of financial information of an entity, whether profit-oriented or otherwise, irrespective of size and legal form, and such an examination is conducted with a view to express an opinion thereon. From the definition, following points to date. The definition which we just discussed is restricted to financial audit. Financial audit can be extended to any type of entity, and the objective of a financial audit is to express an opinion. That is the auditor's report. Now, audit. Where does the word audit come from? Audit comes from the word audire, which means to listen. So, business has been going on for several centuries. In the Egyptian era, business was widely done, even in the Greeks and Roman. Since the word audit comes from the word audire, it implies that there were times when the auditee or someone would read out the accounts and the auditor would just listen. Coming from there to where we do audit today, there's been a sea change. Over the years, the audit process has taken a change. I remember in the late 70s when I was doing my articles, we didn't have computers, no calculators, no automation. The first question we would ask the accountant or the finance manager, is your trial balance tallied? That was the first question we would ask. Today you take it for granted that the trial balance tallies. We use automation, ERP, tally, accounting packages. It's implied that the trial balance tallies. The entries may be wrong. So our first job was to tally the trial balance. Even if the debit or credit was in excess of 1 rupee or 1 rupee 32 paisa, 1 rupee 45 paisa, we still had to go through the entire rigorous exercise of doing the posting and casting for the entire ledger, entire cash book, bank book, reconcile the difference, and then proceed with the audit. Today I doubt any of you would do that. Over a period of time, laws have become complex. Auditors today have to adhere to auditing standards, accounting standards, various complex corporate and tax laws. In recent trends, audit, spurred by the several accounting scandals world over, have increased the focus on internal control procedures. The aim is to ensure completeness, accuracy, validity of the items in the accounts. The audit process is audit engagement procedures, audit planning, risk-based approach, audit procedures, interim, pre-final, final, formal procedures required by law, finalizing and reporting, and documentation and archiving. I mean, that's the entire cycle. Audit planning. There is no substitute to early planning. Timely, well thought out, well executed planning effort is essential in the performance of an effective and efficient audit. The initial planning effort forms the foundation of all risk assessment processes and helps us identify potential audit problems in advance. A well-designed initial planning would achieve the following: early identification of significant accounting and auditing and reporting issues, understanding the client's expectations, optimal and adequate resource deployment, communication of audit objectives to the entire team, timely and efficient execution of the audit and review responsibilities. The audit planning process will vary from audit to audit depending upon the purpose of the examination, the size and complexity of the operations, audit team's experience and capabilities. I'm sure this topic will be dealt with in great detail by our speaker. Audit documentation. There was a very important treatise in accounting called Montgomery's Auditing, written in the year 1912. The significant part which I gather from there is the skill of an accountant can always be ascertained by the inspection of his working papers. Your working papers have to tell an unrelated accountant or reviewer the type of work that you have done. Working papers have to be complete, concise, and most importantly, the conclusion, the judgment which you take, the call which you have taken, that has to be well documented. We have several standards in auditing. 230 audit documentation, that itself tells you how important audit documentation is. Then SA 500 deals with audit evidence. That itself is again a very important topic. The practical aspects of audit documentation. When we do an audit, you're pressed for time, you're pressed for the client may not be ready. There will be gaps in what the client promises to deliver to you and your reporting to your to the firm. By the time the law, the standard gives you 60 days to complete your audit documentation. But invariably, moment you finish one audit, you are sent to another audit, the documentation of the previous audit is left undone. We've got to work around this so that our audit working papers, our audit file is complete in all respects. We, as practicing chartered accountants, you will be subject to SQC, quality control, peer review. Your audit file, your audit working papers will tell the peer reviewer what you have done, what you have, the judgment which you have taken, and that will determine the quality of your audit. With these few words, I now hand over the session to the speaker who will take you in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your inspirational words. I request Treasurer of Bangalore Branch ICI, B.T. Shetty, sir, to present our Chief Guest CA Cyrus, sir, with a memento as a token of gratitude. I now propose vote of thanks to inaugural session. On behalf of SICASA, I would like to extend gratitude towards our Chief Guest CA Cyrus Bharucha, sir, for inaugurating the session. CA Abdul Majeed, sir, is a part of assurance practice in PricewaterhouseCoopers and has over 25 years of professional experience. Sir is a commerce graduate and fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Sir has worked with PwC network firms across different countries and has worked mainly in assurance line of service and is part of many large multinational and complex engagements. Sir is serving the clients in different industries from manufacturing, automobile, IT, BPO, retail, insurance, banking, construction, telecom, oil and gas, etc. Sir is actively involved in the education field and is currently a member of the Board of Studies of IFIL Bangalore. Sir also takes active part in seminars organized by the ICAI, CII in various subjects such as accounts, taxes, compliances, state budgets, economy and is currently also working with CII on model state budgets, especially focusing on certain states. With no hurry, let's welcome CA Abdul Majeed sir to take over the session.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank ICI and the ICI Treasurer and Mr. Bharucha for the introduction and leading this session. I think when I got a call for this session, I was very excited because obviously you are the leaders of tomorrow, and obviously it's our duty now to spend more time on that. And as you all of know, I think the profession is in the crossword, just not in India, all over the world. Whenever I go abroad, I just pick the paper. I think obviously you see, I think when I joined this profession, we were not learners so much. I never used to see CA's name coming in the paper, but now it's very often, which is unfortunate, not coming out for a good reason. You might ask the question, what has changed now? I think there are two things which have changed. One, there is a huge expectation gap between what to do, what public think to do. They think that the moment an auditor does something, there is absolutely no fraud. So there is a huge expectation gap. I think that's one. The second one, I think we also have to blame ourselves for not doing what is that we are supposed to do. I think these are the two things. And if you look at, IFAC, which is the International Federation of Accountants, what are the key pillars on which this profession stands? We just need to ask the question to ourselves. There are probably two pillars on this profession is standing today. The one pillar is basically how you make judgment. Life is not very simple, and today if you ask me, making judgment is extremely difficult. We have the standard which talks about going concern, looking for 12 months. It's very difficult for you to do next 1 month what will happen. Things have changed rapidly. So making a sound judgment is very critical. How can I make the sound judgment? How can you make the sound judgment? You can only make the sound judgment if you have the sound knowledge. Sound knowledge about the business of your client, the client business issues, then of course the auditing standard, the accounting standard, the law and regulation which impact the financial statement. You've got to have the good knowledge of all of those things. Now what is the second pillar? The second place where I think we are missing on a bit, which I personally feel that's what regulators are now pushing us to do more, is skepticism. We got to have the healthy skepticism. When I'm talking skepticism, it's not that we need to be doubting somebody's integrity. Then it all makes sense to me. I think that's where, if you ask me frankly, I think, when I started doing the audit, the mindset was very skeptical. That's how we were taught. Like as Bharucha said, just carrying the trial balance first, making sure they're jumping on. I think those days the business very small. They're not very complex like today. So I think how can I make this skeptic, how can I have the skeptical mindset? Then questioning mindset. I think these are the two fundamental pillars. As a leader of tomorrow, you should always think through what is that we can do to make sure can we sharpen these skills. And also if you look at today, when I sit back, I passed out in 89. When I sit back and look at today, as a partner, sometime when I've signed a financial statement, what worries me is that basically I don't have control on my own destiny. Why do I say that? I say so because half of the financial statement, or more than half, is on fair valuation. When we move to India's historical cost, you and me can audit very well, say that look, what you paid, it's all there, I've collected, life is very simple. Today the whole financial statement is moved to fair valuation. What is fair value? Nobody knows. And the markets are so dynamic. So that is one problem. The second, we are depending far too many on experts. In an audit today, if you really look at it, we depend upon the IT expert, we depend upon actual valuation, we depend upon valuers, we depend upon so many experts. So things are changing very rapidly. I think from that perspective only, I think we need to always think through how can we sharpen this skill. Now what I will do basically is I'll just go through in terms of the audit, how to prepare for the audit and the documentation. Before I just kind of jump onto that, first we need to really understand two things. One is a framework. Under what framework we are auditing the financial statement? There are two frameworks. One framework is your accounting standard, other framework is your auditing standard. And auditing standard does differ country to country. If I go back and when we do the US GAAP audit, companies which are registered with SEC, now because these, obviously I think IPAC, which is the IAASB, International Standard of Auditing Board, actually Assurance Auditing Board, IAASB, they had, most of our auditing standards are principle based. But when this Enron happened, when the WorldCom happened in the US, and obviously Cellbox came in, and that time they formed an independent body called PCOB to, kind of look at all the public audit reports and standards. That's where the PCOB came in, and they have taken a completely different approach than what IAASB has taken in the past. And our Indian standards are very much aligned to IAASB. So it's very important for you to know the framework, because the standard does differ. What procedures you kind of do for the opening balances are quite different in the PCOB standard compared to what you do in the auditing, in the Indian auditing standard. So first we need to understand which framework you are auditing. Is it Indian auditing standard or international auditing standard or PCOB standard or ISCPA standard, all of those things, which is very important for us to do that first thing. The second one is the accounting standard, accounting framework. Is it an IND-AS or is it just Indian accounting standard, US GAAP, UK GAAP, IFRS? I think that is very, very clear. You need to be on that. And third thing, you always have to think through, just taking a step back, what are the laws and regulations impact the financial statement? Because which is very much part of it. If you ask me what is audit, audit is three things: accounting, auditing, consolidation. That's all about it. There's nothing else to do with that. So you need to think through that also, what critical laws and regulations you need to really understand which impact the financial statement. When you audit, you need to think through on that. That's on the framework side. I think the most important, apart from that, is legal entity itself. Are you just doing the standalone audit? Are you doing the consolidation audit? Are you a group auditors? Are you a component auditors? Because once again, I think if you're a component auditor, somebody is going to tell you that what you're supposed to do. If you're a group auditor, you're going to instruct someone, because you might have subsidiaries, you want to send the instruction, get it, all the instructions, responses, and then do the consolidation. In India, you have the joint audit responsibility, but globally, I think it's not gone now. You just can't depend upon the other auditors when you certify as a principal auditor. But in India, still we have the joint audit responsibility. So that is very important, the legal structure, the form. Are you doing the standalone financial statement or you are doing the consolidated financial statement? And apart from that, just a quick touch base, you also have the different types of engagement. You might have an audit, you have a review engagement, you might have agreed upon procedures, you might have referred reporting engagement. There are different types of engagement. So apart from the framework, you also need to understand what sort of audit I am doing. Is it a limited review? Is it a kind of a statutory audit I am doing? I'm doing some kind of agreed upon procedures. It's all important for you to understand. And then today, there is one more thing called non-audit assurance engagement. It's called NA or NAAE. Because if you ask me the future where we are heading towards, we are heading towards a future where a lot more services people want our certification, just not the financial statement. So you have an non-audit assurance engagement once again. So that's one other kind of engagement. So broad classification of the framework you need to understand, the legal form, the legal entity, then also different kind of engagement. Now we are focusing today on the core audit. I'm not going to focus about other things. I'm just going to focus on the core audit. If you think through audit, you need to think through the three broad categories in terms of your segmentation. One is my planning. Secondly, my execution. Finally, my conclusion. So these are the three things what we need to kind of think through. And as the previous speaker says, the planning plays a very important role. Planning plays a very, very important role. What is that we need to be doing in the planning? Planning, you have set an activity which you need to do very well, because if you don't do planning well, the outcome is not going to be great for you. So typically speaking, if you have 100 hours in audit, you tend to spend 35 to 40 hours only on planning. I think think that is one area I think I request you to just make sure, I think, you do plan your work appropriately. Maybe I'm sure that you must be doing some component audits actually, but overall planning is done. But for your benefit, I think the planning plays a very, very critical activity. So what is that I need to be doing in the planning? What activity I need to be doing in the planning? So the first and foremost thing in the planning, is basically the acceptance of client. There are set procedures to perform to say that yes, I think this client I can accept or not. So that is a fundamental thing which you do, because if you can't manage the risk, you don't want to accept that client. So this comes from the ISQC 1. I think your firms, where you are doing audit, I think articles, they all have this process. Some have the electronic form, some have the paper form, various forms they have. So what is that you do in the acceptance? You understand the client risk. You understand the client business. Then you finally take a call. Yes, I think we will be able to do audit in this client. If not, obviously you will not proceed that because the risk will be too high. So that is an activity which is generally performed by the senior engagement team, the partner and the managers. They perform that activity and then they come to the conclusion, yes, I think we can do this audit annually, you do that acceptance. Once you accept the client, so what next now? So obviously you go and propose yourself. Yes, I'm happy. Then you complete all your formalities under Section 139 of the companies. You get appointed as an auditor. So that you need to once again make sure that you have been appointed legally, properly, as required by the Indian Companies Act. Because many times what happens, I think, you might have trouble if you don't do that. And Indian Companies Act, if you ask, this is very, very stringent when I look at even UK Companies Act. So I think that is the second step, that yes, I think we have been appointed now, we are happy, we kind of accepted, we have been appointed. What's third now? Third is basically you need to have an engagement letter. So engagement letter is once again, pretty critical activity. There is an essay on that. You have to have a green engagement letter with your client, incorporating all client's responsibility and your responsibility towards the engagement. So that is an activity, I think there is an essay for that. There are a lot of illustrative examples in the essay, what sort of template you can use for engagement letter. If your firm is already using, then you don't really have to worry. But I request you to take a good look at the engagement letter and also good look at the essay which talks about engagement letter. Because that's a fundamental, kind of a document between you and your client that yes, I think we're engaged and this is what we need to be doing. In terms of it's audit, it's a limited review, it's agreed upon procedures, whatever it may be. You do that. So the engagement letter plays an important role from that perspective. Once you finish the engagement letter, what next? The most important thing, if you ask me frankly, when I sit back, look at many audit failures around the world, because I keep going for a lot of quality check for international firms. One thing comes to my mind that I think the engagement teams have just not understood client business properly. If you ask me today, what's the most difficult task in the audit? As a partner, as a guy who's been spent 25 years in the firm, is understanding your client business. The businesses are not very, very simple. Look at Amazon, look at Flipkart, look at Ola, look at Uber. You just don't know what sort of business they are in. So understanding the business is extremely important for you. So what is that I need to be understanding the business? The first and most important thing is that basically, what is that industry this client belongs to? Is the industry highly regulated? Because there are certain industries which are very, very highly regulated. For example, banks. All over the world they are highly regulated because they have the public money. You have the non-banking finance companies in India, NBFCs. You have insurance. You have pharmaceuticals. These are very highly controlled industries. Your risks are always high in this industry because they're highly regulated. So first you need to understand the sector or the industry in which your client operates. And then from there you can understand the industry challenges. You need to understand the industry challenges. You can't simply come to your client to say that you're going to do the risk assessment. You will not be able to properly identify the risk if you don't understand the industry risk. And every industry has different kind of risk. There is no industry which has similar risk profile. You go to constructions, you have very different risk. You go to pharmaceutical, you have very different risk. You go to auto, you have different risk. You go to bank, you have different risk. You go to oil and gas sector, you have different risk. So understand that industry properly. What are the challenges in this industry? What are the opportunities in the industry? Challenges in the industry. Why is it so important for us to do that? Then you can really understand whether your client performance is in line with the industry, whether your client has the same issues with the industry has. If not, that is called unusual trend. Then you need to really look at it in terms of as part of your audit. So understanding business is actually your sector, and also you need to have today, if you ask me frankly, a bit of economic knowledge. You can't do the audit without understanding what's happening in the economical. When I'm saying economics, what is that? That essentially means 3 or 4 things. Is economic growing significantly in the country or in the place where you are? And how this industry to which your client belongs to, link to the economy, because there are certain industries, they are highly linked to the economy. For example, construction. If the government does spend a lot of money on infrastructure, you could see construction doing very well, you could see cement doing very well, you could see steel doing very well, right? So understanding the growth in the economy is extremely important. So that is one story. What is the next story? What is interest rate? Is it going up? Is it going down? What's inflation? Because if interest rate is going up, if your client has borrowed heavily, then that client will be always in trouble. They have more leverage because they have to pay more. It's all linked because what is happening, we always take audit as an isolated activity, which is where we fail miserably. My request to all of you is that just open up, from that perspective. So what's interest rate? What's happening in that area? Then the next element is the forex. The foreign currency does play a very, very important role on the businesses. If you're exporting, like today, rupees badly. If you're exporting, you'll be very happy. If you're importing, you'll start crying. If you're not hedged, right? So that is where you need to understand the broader parameter, how they impact the industry, then how they impact your client. So that is where I think you need to understand the broader picture of the business understanding. Once you come to that, or to your client side, you understood the business, you also need to understand who's your client supplier. Who are the top suppliers from a client? Who are the top customer from a client? How much business they generate from top 5 clients? If they lose 1 or 2 clients, what sort of pressure they will have on that? So that amount of understanding what is required for you there, that's where the audit becomes interesting. See, in audit you can make audit very monotonous, or we can do the audit very interesting. But frankly, there is no other profession like an audit where you become extremely knowledgeable if you want to become knowledgeable. If you want to become tick the box, then this profession becomes very monotonous. So I think that's where you need to understand the client supplier, customers, service providers, and also need to understand, what sort of customers your client has. If your client has a government contract, it brings a different risk altogether. Dealing with the government, you know that in India, right? So what sort of risk? And is it the client is kind of getting the business from the e-portal for the government? That's how they bid, or there's some other bidding mechanism. And if the other bidding mechanism, what sort of risk you have in that? I think that's a whole lot of things will come through. And as you know, the auditing standard mandates 2 risks for you. Once you understand the business, the next what you do is the risk assessment. What is the risk in this client? What are the significant risks? So that I can focus much more on those areas and then make sure that those balances are reflected properly. Historically, over the last 10 years, the auditing standards have moved to say to auditors that, look, auditor, you have to take 2 areas as a significant risk. One is a revenue recognition. So the standard mandates to assume that there is a risk of fraud in revenue. It was not there when I did my articles and qualification. It's all happened because of the frauds which are happening around. And most of the frauds happen on the top line. So as a result of that, after this WorldCom, Enron, some of these issues happen. Obviously the auditing standards moved drastically to say to the auditor that, look, you have to take revenue as a significant risk. If not, you have to revert that presumption. It's presumed that the risk is very high, but if you as an auditor think that, look, boss, I think there is no risk here, then the auditing standard mandates you need to revert in your working papers that this is not a risk for me at all because of 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. It's required under the standard. So one is the revenue. The second risk is basically management override of control. That's a mandatory risk. You've got to have that in your planning. In addition to that, you can take any other risk which you think through. And here also, I think the challenge which I see across when I go for the inspection and I think for the network firm, people tend to default on these two risks only. They just take revenue as a risk, management override risk, forget about everything. That's not. Why it happens? Because you're not interested in the business. There could be many risks. For example, related party transaction could be a big risk. In Indian context, if you see, that's the issue in our capital market, to find diversion. The funds have been diverted from the main business to other businesses. So related party transactions are very, very critical. And if you look at new companies that has lots of teeth to ensure that related party transactions are carried at arm's length. So risk assessment, once you understand the industry, you understand your client business, the challenges, then it becomes very easy for you to understand what risk I should be taking apart from the revenue and the management override of control. You could take related party as risk. You could take contingency commitment if your client is exposed to large dispute, complex dispute. Then you need to look at that also. Yes, I think that could be risk on the financial statement or any regulatory issue your client has. So it depends. You can look at basically, because understanding, assessing the risk properly is a very, very critical activity. It's a half the job done. If you don't understand and assess the risk properly, then you'll have huge challenge, and ultimately you will not be able to do the quality audit. So that's where the understanding becomes extremely important. And today you are very, very fortunate. When we did the articles, I never had any kind of net. Today, if you want to understand the bank challenges, go to RBI website, you get a report on that. You want to know what sort of challenges the automotive industry has, go to Society of Indian Automotive Industries, you will know that. You have every industry body website today. Click on the button, you know the issues there. You're pretty fortunate on that account. So you can just, without spending your time, without paying for anything, you can get that knowledge wherever you want. So understand and then do the risk assessment. Once you do the risk assessment, the next very important thing is a judgment involved there. How to set materiality. Because if you set materiality very low, you'll become very efficient in doing the audit. If you set your materiality very high, then obviously you're not audit enough. So appropriate materiality, and there are many thresholds people use. You can, if you're a profit-making entity, you're a listed client, people tend to take 5% as materiality. Why 5%? Because many judgments in Supreme Court, in various countries, they have put benchmark of 5 to 10%. So you might take 5 to 10% as materiality for profit-making entity. If it's not a profit-making entity, let's say for example it's an NGO, you could take expenses as benchmark. If it's a bank, you could take asset as benchmark. The standards allows you different kind of parameters, but a lot of judgment is involved here. So setting the materiality right is extremely important, otherwise you do under audit or over audit. So that is one other area, which industry you are. Do you want to take profit, you want to take loss as your benchmark, or you want to take the average profit? Because for example, if the industry is fluctuating, let's say for example you have textile business, which is very seasonal in nature. There you might say that, look, I think 1 year profit may be a problem here, I want to just take 2 or 3 years profit because that's a cycle for this business. You can take that. But whatever you do, you have to document your rationale. That has to be in work paper to reflect what was your thinking when you set your materiality. So that is very, very important. The next one, what is the next one I should be doing? The next one is very, very important, is that the standard mandates you to do unpredictable procedures. Every year you need to do certain procedures which your client cannot predict. And what the auditing standard mandates, to do unpredictable procedures in the risk areas. Some procedures you need to do. For example, let's take you are taking a revenue as a risk, right? So you might say that, look, I want to look at low value invoices in this client as unpredictable procedures. I want to know what sort of things they are selling, because your client might be selling very low value invoices, fraudulent invoices, and then he knows that the auditors will not look low invoices and you will get away from that. So you've got to think through unpredictable procedures in that area. You can do unpredictable procedures in other areas also, but that's where the standard mandate. So that means you need to think through on that. Then the next, I think which is very, very critical once again, is how to assess the fraud risk. What are the fraud risks of this client? Because you cannot say that there is no fraud in my client. If you ask me, there is fraud in every client. The question for us basically is that is it a fraud committed by top management or is committed by lower management? If it's top management, then you are in trouble because the whole governance functions comes to play there. And we keep seeing that low ticket frauds in the other areas. So how to do this fraud risk assessment? The best thing to do is that look at from your share capital to expenses. For each account balances where things can go wrong. There are certain account balances, things can go wrong much larger compared to others. For example, inventory, or for example, fixed asset, or for example, revenue, or purchases, or supplier selections, or scrap. It could be various other things. So you need to think through all those areas where the account balance might be exposed to fraud risk, and then you have to identify or maybe have proper procedures to address that. And that's also we can do the unpredictable procedures. So understanding what might go wrong is also very, very important, because that's where I talked about healthy skepticism. I said we are not doing properly. We tend to believe whatever the client gives on the face value, then net we just end into trouble. So you need to think on the fraud risk. Once you do the fraud risk, either you say that look, this account balance is a fraud or not fraud, then you can look at it. There are three other things that you need to think through in this area. One is a related party transaction. What sort of transaction these are? Are they in the normal course of business or they're abnormal business transaction? So that's where you need to think through. If it's just purchase and sale in the ordinary course of business, a pricing with a related party transaction might become an issue. If your client is selling to a third party and also related party, you can easily make out what price he's selling. If he's selling at the same price, then there's no issue there. But if he's discounting the related party transaction, then you have an issue there. Same thing for the purchases. Or there are unusual transactions which are not in the ordinary course of business. For example, giving a huge loan. Sometimes it might be not in the ordinary course of business. Or selling company's land to some relatives, if not, not in the market value. These are all unusual transactions. So understanding related party transactions plays a very critical role, and many frauds happen in the area. The management order of control typically tend to happen in the related party transactions. I think that's the area where you need to think through once again in terms of how much is normal, how much is abnormal, and if it's abnormal, you need to really get down to the details and have the different audit procedures for that. So that is related party transaction. Then the next one, what are the accounting estimate goes in the preparation of financial statement? When you say estimate, there are two kinds of estimate. What the standard talks about. Estimates without significant uncertainty. That means there is no uncertainty at all. For example, I have to pay my rent. I did not pay my rent, then I am accruing for that. There is no uncertainty there. I have rental agreement, I know what rent I am supposed to pay, I will accrue for it. Or for example, salary. I know that what salary I am going to pay to my employees and I will accrue for that. There is no significant uncertainty. Those estimates are very, very easy to audit. Then there are estimates, there is very, very significant uncertainty. So what are those accounting estimates? There could be tax litigation. Huge transfer pricing issue in your client. You don't know which way it head towards. Or huge issue in the indirect tax. You don't know how it will go against or in favor of the company. That could be. Or you have significant warranty cost. You really don't know, I think, how the warranty is going to come up pattern. Or impairment of fixed asset. Or goodwill. Or impairment of investment. Right? I think all of that very, very critical. Or inventory provision sometimes. It might be simple, it may be complex. Debtors provision. It may be something simple, complex. So you need to think through what accounting estimates are going in preparation of the financial statement. Because why it's so important? Then you can make up your mind. One area, I think, when you go for the audit, you should always think through, which always I do, which is the area difficult to audit in this financial statement. Because that's where our focus should be. If it's easy, you do it easy, but if it's difficult. So accounting estimate is one area you study. And as I said just beginning, with the fair valuation, when you go to fair valuation, which is not market level 3 instrument, in India is what you call as level 1, level 2, level 3. When you have level 3, you can't observe that. You drive based on cash flow, you drive based on valuation models. So it's very, very difficult to audit. For example, if you have preference shares, under Ind AS you need to split that between equity and liability. You have compound instrument, or you have the forward covers, you have the options, you have the stock options. They are not very easy to audit because they have lots of assumptions. In case of, I think, at least on the employee under service benefit, you tend to depend on actuary, right? So you need to understand what accounting estimate goes in preparation of the financial statement and what procedures we need to do, what audit plan we should have against towards that. I'll come towards an execution how to audit the accounting estimate. I think that's extremely important for you to do that because once again you will have a clear idea in terms of an accounting estimate what goes there. Once that happens, the next in the planning, you need to do the risk analytics. You have to take your client P&L account and balance sheet, do the risk analytics to find out where are the unusual variances. Where are the unusual variances? For example, I spoke to you at the beginning. If your client is exposed to foreign currency, let's assume today you are going for an audit, or today you will get your client a P&L account. Obviously, I think with the rupee battling like 80, you want to see that impact on your cost of sales. The external knowledge will help you. See, remember, it's very easy to audit what is in trial balance. We have come to a situation, we have to know what should have been there, which is not there. I think we are going to that direction now, which is very, very significant in a jump from where we started our profession. So, make the risk analytics. So, for example, carrying out all the ratios. The best thing to do is that compute all the ratios. Ratios of last year, ratios of current year, the P&L ratios, the balance sheet ratios, whether it could be gross profit, net profit, or it could be in terms of current assets, current ratio, quick ratio, return on capital, asset ratio, whatever it may be. Kind of computing all the ratios and understanding how the numbers have moved from the last year to current year. Are there any unusual items? So what is unusual items? One-time activity. How the companies perform better. They know that the business are not doing very well. They have a huge land. They'll go and sell the land and make more money out of it and just credit to P&L account. Suddenly your profit goes up. Then the question should come to your mind: the quality of profit. Is it sustainable? Right? So that you should knock off as an unusual item and think through differently. So that is very, very important. And one other thing which you can do is, if you have some information available, which is very good, how my company is performing compared with peers. Let's assume that I am doing Tata Motors. How Tata Motors performs compared to Ashok Leyland? What sort of gross margin they make there? Which is very important for you to know, because that's where you understand the client strategy. The product where they are doing very well, the product where they are not doing very well. So understanding the unusual variances in the risk analytics is so important, because there is one more activity which is required as per the standard. You also do the final conclusion analytics. To both are linked. Your audit program you can effectively build the audit program once you understand the unusual items in your balance sheet and P&L account and how the number is impacted. And what could be sensitive information? See, sometimes people tend to forget about EPS could be very, very sensitive information for the market. I know when I was in UK, fraud in the EPS, nothing else. Everything is fine. The company just, kind of tilted the EPS because EPS was one of the key criteria for the stock market for the prices. They did some wrong computations in the number of shares. Everything was perfect. And obviously that got caught because I think if they have reflected the actual price, the stock price would have gone down. I think that's one more area. You need to look at just not the P&L account, balance sheet, even things like EPS. I think that is more important, and then you can have the unusual items. Then you can think through how you want to plan that, what audit procedures you want to do that, and also try to link the external knowledge. Interest rate gone up, my client is borrowing, I expect finance cost to go up. There is an expectation, right? Our currency has gone up, import could be a problem. Currency has gone up, I might have a good profit because I'll get more money on my exports. So build that in your mindset, and then can easily make out how it's impacting on the risk analytics. So once that is true, what next? What the standard talks about? The standard talks about at the planning stage, assess the going concern. Do you think that are there indicators through which I think you might say your client have a going concern issue? Negative net worth, declining profit, losing business, or interest is going through downtrend. So that is one important, you need to get into the planning stage itself, what procedures you want to perform around the going concern. And going concern is a significant activity today because I already talked about how things are changing recently. So once you do that, what next in the planning? Next in the planning is the going through the minutes of meeting. All the minutes of meeting. When you're just a company, you can just have audit committee meeting, or you can have the board of directors meeting. If you are doing PAN, there are 9 to 10 committees as per the RBI requirement. You need to go through all those committees, all those minutes of meeting, and how they impact your audit standards. You should not just read the minutes. If the minute says something on the stock option, then it will have impact on the stock option. If the minute says something on the borrowing limit, it will have impact on the borrowing limit. If the minute says that the new bank account is open, the new bank account is open, or bank account is closed. So all is flowing through your minutes. So the minutes are the matters which are discussed in the board audit committee which have impact on the financial statement. You need to carve out and then you need to look at that, where it's been addressed. So that is very, very important activity for you because that's where I think you get a lot of knowledge about the business, what's happening around. So once you do that, what next? The next important thing is understanding the client contract. What sort of contract the client has? You have contract with the suppliers, you might have contract with the customers, you might have contract with the government, you might have contract with the supplier, you're a related party, or you put with the bank, so you might have a lot of contracts. So why we should understand the contract? We need to understand what sort of impact they have on the financial statement. For example, I have a contract with my supplier to say that, look, in a year I will pick X quantity from you. And I don't pick up the X quantity. So what will happen? I have to pay you. Right? Then I have to account for that. It's called onerous contract. Right? So you need to understand that also. Just imagine if the client tells you, if the client wants to commit a fraud, he will only give the contract which are not having any impact, but he will not give the contract to you which is very significant. So how can I catch that? You can only understand if you understand the business. The completeness of contract, you can't understand that. Unless if you understand the client business, and then you can pick up, okay, this contract may be there, or you link with the minutes of meeting, because minutes of meeting, anything goes to the board of directors. So understanding the contract, what impact they have, once again, factor that those contracts you might even address in the sales, or purchases, or expenses, or fixed asset auditing, whatever it may be. I think that's once again very, very important from that perspective. Once you do that, what is the next action you do? Then the most important thing you need to understand the client, the overall governance structure, the COSO framework. The COSO framework has basically the 5 components. You start with control environment, then you go to risk assessment, then you go to information and communication, the monitoring of controls and control activities. These are 5 set, thing what you do in the overall control environment. It's very, very important because, believe me, if there is no governance, no way on the earth you can manage your risk. Rather, you can just get out of the client because you will be in trouble anyway. If the governance is bad, you can't audit at all, right? The risk of management of board of control is very high. So, what is it I need to be doing in the control environment? Let me just dissect in a very, very small. When you look at control environment, overall control environment, there are 2 types of things you need to look at. One, what are the indirect controls? What are the direct controls? So, what are the indirect controls? Does my client have a code of conduct? Do they have a code of conduct? Do they do background check of the employees? Do they have very good HR policies? They hire competent people, right? So those are all part of your indirect controls. They don't directly impact your financial statement, but they do play a significant role in that. Does my client have a policy not to, give corruption? That's a very important thing. Code of conduct will cover that. So that is indirect. Now what is direct? So how MIS is used? What sort of activity board does on financials? How rigorous the financial performance is? How the rigorous budget setting goes on? How what sort of KPIs they look at it? What sort of ratios the board looks at it? What the ratios the parent company looks at it? And once you understand the rigor, then you can say, okay, if my materiality is X, and if the client threshold is lower than my materiality, I can rely on that control. Because that control is operating at the precision on which you are looking for. Let's say, for example, my materiality is 100, and the client is doing all the variance analysis at 50. It becomes very good for you. You might rely on that. If you're satisfied that this control is operating the way it should operate. But if the client is doing at 1,000 rupees, you cannot, obviously it's not operating at your materiality threshold. So I think that direct controls and whether you can rely on those controls, or at least you don't want to rely on the control, you can understand the control. The MIS, the board activities, what they do on the financials, so that's all part of your control environment. So there are direct controls, there are indirect controls. So what is risk assessment? The COSO mandates the companies to have the risk assessment, enterprise risk assessment. So that means basically what sort of risk the company is facing. There could be three types of risk. I might have operational risk, I might have financial risk, I might have legal risk. There are no other risks there, but the three risks categories starting with that. So you as an auditor need to focus a lot more on the financial risk and the compliance risk. Operational risk is fine, I think it's more to do with the company, I think they'll take it off. So the risk assessment, and many companies have the enterprise risk assessment. And then they have risk register. And they also have the mitigation plan. Because in every business, you have to make a decision how much risk you want to mitigate, what risk you want to transfer. I want to transfer a risk through insurance. You might do that, right? So that is other area of the risk assessment, and that will give you a bird's eye of view. And that you can very well connect that with your industry knowledge. For example, if you're doing automotive companies, let's say, suddenly this Euro 6 is coming, the Bharat 6 is coming in India. It's going to have huge impact on the client fixes their client financials. Have they impacted, have they taken the risk under risk register? A significant change in the law. So that's where I think, or maybe there's change in the transfer pricing, or there's change in the, there are a lot of things are happening with, the direct tax code, or many things are happening in taxes. So it might be a risk for your client. Are they really factoring in the risk register and how they are mitigating the risk, how they are transferring the risk, which is once again very, very important in that activity to understand the risk. So once you do that, the next activity is basically information and communication. What you really look at is that how the information is generated and how the activities are monitored. For example, do my client close the books properly? If I'm preparing the MIS from out of the air, I don't close my books, then I can't rely on that. So is a proper closing activity happening? How the information is prepared, how it's generated, and who uses it. And remember in audit, when you go for the audit, just don't sit with the CFO or the tax guys. You've got to meet the production guys. You've got to meet the HR guys. You've got to meet the legal guys. So you need to understand what sort of challenges they have, what information they get, and how they manage their activity. And from there you can understand, is there any risk for the audit for me to understand. So that's what you do, the information and communication. And one other important thing there is that understanding the client IT infrastructure. I think today, if you look at it, it's extremely difficult to do an audit without understanding the client IT infrastructure. How many systems a client has to prepare the trial balance, from which system the trial balance comes in. Because there is often not one system. You might have SAP, you might have one payroll, you might have a fixed asset, you might have something for inventory. Is it interfaced, automatically, or somebody does push and pull? You've done it, somebody does a push and pull. Is there any fraud there? Because always I keep asking the client, why have you not automated this? In today's world, if somebody does that and not automated, is there a risk of fraud here? You should hit your mind. That's what the skepticism is all about. So understanding the client infrastructure, IT infrastructure, that's one part of the story. The second part of the story is basically whether these systems communicate with the outside system. Every client today has their system interacting with the bank portal, their system interacting with some other portal. So what sort of controls they have on that, including cyber. Cyber is becoming a key risk for all of us. As an auditor, we've got to understand that are there any risks? If there are risks, how companies are mitigating those risks. So that is very, very important once again on that, on the information communication. Then monitoring control. So what is monitoring control? It essentially two things you do. One, you look at the internal audit. As a monitoring control, whether the client has internal audit and how robust the internal audit, who decides the scope, who they report to, do they have competency, do they have objectivity? Objectivity is nothing but they are not reporting to the person to who is doing the transaction. If the internal audit head is going to report to CFO, there is no use. They typically report to audit committee, they typically report to those charging governments. So you need to look at that internal audit. Then probably if you want to rely on that work, you could rely, but in Indian context, I think we normally don't do that. Then there could be any other monitoring which audit committee might put through. So that you look at the monitoring control. Then the last is the control activity. Control activity is extremely important because that's where the internal control comes through. If your client is, if you are opining the IFC's, internal financial control, then obviously you need to look at, which are the key cycles, right? From your purchase purchase and purchase, payable, sales receivable, inventory, fixed asset, treasury, all the financial statement, close process, all these activities will come through. Then you will look at what sort of controls the client has. And the best thing to do is that for each of the processes, you need to clearly understand what are the controls in each area, which are the automated control, which are the manual control, which are the preventive control, which are the detective control. Because that's very, very important for you. Because in automated control, obviously you can test one transaction, be happy. If the ITGC is nothing but information general controls are operating, which is in the fourth domain. Basically the program change, computer operations, access, all of those things are working properly, then you can rely on the automated control. So understanding, for example, in sales and receivable, how many automated control the client has and how many manual controls. And today I think the best benchmark is basically companies are moving towards having more and more automated control. If you look at 100 is my control, typically client wants to get into 60, 65. And there's one other control there you need to understand is the review control. What's the review control? Actually, the control is exercised by someone else. For example, income tax, advance tax. Who prepares, who reviews, who pays? That's the review control. Or inventory control. Most accounting estimate have the review control. Whether it's inventory provision, debtors provision, or whatever provision you make, you always have the review control. So understanding that is very important because review control testing is very different from other control. Because review control, to large extent depend upon, you need to be comfortable. The guy who's reviewing has knowledge to do that. He's knowledgeable on that. What's his experience? So some of these factors you take into account when you start testing the review control. So understand all those controls, automated controls, and why preventive control? Because most of the companies are now going to either automated control, which are preventive in nature. Because there's no point having detective control. If your client has 100 detective control, then there's no use there. Because the manual control depends upon the quality of the person, right? So that is other area you need to think through. So if the controls are only manual, then you have to tell your client that you need to probably start going to automated control. So that's what you do in the control activities, in terms of that. So you've done that in the planning. So what next? The next is the audit strategy. So then you need to, once you do all of those things, you are in a better position to determine what audit strategy should be. Which is a Bible for you, which is like a heart of the audit. If that goes wrong, then there will be death in the audit. Because that's the heart of the audit. So what is audit strategy? My audit strategy is simply, basically, I have understood my risk. Now, I have understood the controls. Then you will say, okay, fine, I want to do so much of control testing, so much of substantive testing to conclude that. In an IFC scenario, if you are giving the IFC opinion, it's expected that you would rely on control. You have a high reliance on control. Because you can't say that I will not rely on control, but still I give the IFC. It's not possible. By default, you obviously have the high reliance on control in IFC. If you don't have the IFC, then obviously it's up to you whether you want to rely on the control or not. But remember, the standard mandates you to understand all the key processes. There is no substitute for that. Whether you are doing IFC, you are doing control audit, you are on control audit, you have to understand the process end to end by taking one transaction. Like sales, from beginning to the end, how it happens. Purchases or inventory, or all of those things you need to understand. From inventory, how it gets accounted in the consumption, how the finished goods is accounted, how the WI is accounted, and all of those things. So you need to understand the process anyway, whether you are, why is it important? Without understanding processes, you cannot design audit procedures. You will not be able to design audit procedures. That's what audit standard mandates, that you understand the process. So you understand the process, and then whether you want to really. So in IFC, you take the high control analysis. Generally speaking, on the standard, so once I don't have the risk, I take a normal risk there. I say this is transaction normal risk, I do normal audit. I do low audit. So you don't do substantial, you don't increase your sample size because the normal risk. The moment you say it's a significant risk, for example, I spoke about revenue, then you say, okay, fine, I need to do more. You might either go for a high substantive, high control reliances. You don't want to go high because controllers are very good. You can take still low substantive procedures. Or you could take moderate, or you could take high, depends upon how much comfort you have. So that is very important to determine there in terms of what is it I'm going to do from the control, what is it I'm going to do from substantive procedures, So that will give you a bird's eye view in terms of your strategy, and then from there. And one other thing, which I just forgot to tell you. When you say this, in audit report, I think I talked about accounting, auditing, and non-regulation. So what is I need to be worried about in audit? In audit, you need to be worried about three things. Simple, very, very simple, you need to worry about three things. One, what assertion I am targeting here. In audit, you have assertion, completeness, accuracy, valuation. You have the audit assertion. Every assertion is not important for every account balance. Please remember that. The moment I am saying asset, I am always worried about valuation. Whether the asset reflects the value what it should be. If you go to liability, I am always worried about the completeness. If I go to P&L account, I am always worried about the accuracy and so that's where I think, with validity, these are where I am. So every assertion is not important. In the risk, you need to understand what is my assertion. You can't just sit there, revenue is risk for me, I'm fine with that. You need to understand which is the assertion. Are you worried about the cutoff? Most of the cases, I think we are worried about cutoff. So then you have to only identify cutoff as a risk, not all other assertions. Because other assertions you are fine there. So that's where you need to understand what assertion I am looking at. And for that assertion, obviously in audit strategy, you need to think through, you want to do moderate or you want to do high. That's all you do low. So that's where you understand and determine your strategy, how much you want to rely on controls. So once that you do, so what's the couple of other things in the standards in the planning? The couple of other things in the planning is basically confirmation. The standard mandates you to send confirmation to bank, to customer, and the legal. It doesn't mandate you to send confirmation to suppliers. You might do that if you want to do that, but that's optional to you. But the standard mandates, if you don't do that, then you have to record why you don't do that. So obviously you do for the bank, right? And then you do for the debtors. If you don't want to do the debtors, the standard gives a leeway to you, both the international standard, the ECB standard, and the Indian standard. If your history says that you have sent the confirmation and the response is low, that's why you're not sending the confirmation, then you have to document. Look, I have done last year. Once in 3 years, the standard mandates to do that. I've done last year, but response rate is not great, so I don't want to do that. So you can document, then you can do the other alternate procedures for debtors. Legal. You might say that, look, I don't want to send because there is no legal, there's no legal issue here. But remember, you have to document. Whatever you do, you need to document. So you need to write in your working paper, look, I've discussed with the client, I understood the client business, I looked at the tax assessment, I met the legal head, I validated the legal expenses. By doing all of those things, I concur with the client that there is no significant legal issues. As a result, I am not sending legal confirmation. You need to document because this is a mandatory procedure. If you just keep quiet, then you're not complying with the standards. So you have to document that, right? So that's very, very important for you to do that. So once you do all of those things, confirmations and audit strategies, and more or less I think you have formed up your, the audit plan and risk and everything. So this phase you do well. As I said, battle is one of them. The next important thing for me is the execution. So in execution, what I need to do? I need to look at all FSLI. The first thing you do is basically anything which is material. You have materiality threshold. Anything is material, you have to test it. Or you need to have significant comfort on your controls. Then you want to do the low substantive testing. So that's where you go back and then look at the account balance, how material that is, and then you look at basically what substantive procedures you want to perform. Is it moderate level or low level, high level? That way, what is more important is that basically how you select your sample. So 520 essay which talks about sampling, it allows both statistical sampling and non-statistical sampling. So generally most of the firms follow non-statistical sampling. How is that sampling? You want to go and pick up the samples. So what is that I need to be doing when I pick up the sample? You need to make sure that the population covers the entire period. Even for the control, if you want to do the control testing, you've got to make sure the control covers all the population. Not that I'll test only control for the last 3 months and forget about the first 9 months. Or I'll just test last 3 months transaction and forget. You can't do that because you are opining on the entire year. So that's where you need to go through and look at basically your samples, non-statistical sampling or statistical sampling, how much I need to select, and then entire period is covered or not. So that is extremely important. Now here, so when you are documenting your work, you selected the sample. The most important thing I said, 3 things or 4 things. One, you need to think through what assertion I am looking at here. Am I looking at valuation? Am I looking at completeness? Am I looking at validity? Am I looking at accuracy here? So what's the session I'm trying to look at? Or presentation disclosure, right? If you're going to schedule 3, it's presentation disclosure, right? So what assertion I'm looking at it? And once you know the assertion, what procedures I'm performing? Whether the procedure what I'm performing is addressing that assertion. For example, my assertion in the fixed asset is that I want to know whether fixed assets are there or not. So this physical verification you do. That's the procedure you do in order to ensure that there is existence, right? So that is very important to link the assertion, link the procedure. Then third thing is audit evidence. And audit evidence, just don't go and jump there that, okay, my client has given this, so fantastic, great. You have to take a pause. You've got to think about the quality of audit evidence. Can I rely on the evidences? Is there anything else is happening in the evidences? And today, one risk what you have, significant risk today, when I used to do the audit, I used to see everything on the hard copy. Today, everything is electronic. Committing fraud can be very, very quick there. You need to take the pause, the quality of audit evidences. Can I rely on audit evidences, or there is something else, there is some problem also? So once you are happy with the audit evidences, whether it's electronic form or whatever it may be, if you're happy on the audit evidences, you don't see any other issue, then you can go and the first and foremost thing you need to do before you select the sample, you need to ensure completeness of population. For example, you are asked me to do the audit of sales. My principal has asked me to do the audit of sales. So what is that I do? The first thing I do is, I'll take the sales listing. I'll just try to GL first. If you don't do that, you will be in trouble. And many frauds are committed in a very simple way. A good population is given to auditor, bad population not given. I've seen a number of fraud in my career of 25 years. The basic test of picked up the fraud here. My sales is 1,000. My client is only giving 800 good population. And I don't care about reconciling. Simply I put my population out of 800. They will all fine only. Because 200 is not given to you at all. You're not skeptical there. So one, you need to understand whether the population is complete from where I'm going to pick the sample. So the basic test you do is basically you reconcile the GL. Then from there you pick the population throughout the year, right? So you pick the population and then you go back and look at underlying document which is called audit evidences. Then finally you're happy with all of those things. Then you go and conclude. And what is that you write in the conclusion? You simply say that no exception noted based on my testing. Don't write any other innovative words there because auditing standard only allows you to do that. You can't say no exception noted, I just keep quiet because I'm only doing my samples work with that. So I think that's where you need to do simple in terms of ensure completeness of population. Pick the sample, it could be statistical or non-statistical, get the documentation, plot everything, look at the assertion, and one more thing which I talked about in the beginning itself, two other things which you should think through. In that account balance, whether my client has followed accounting standards properly or not. If I'm doing sales validation, I need to make sure the accounting standard related to sales is followed or not. If I'm doing, let's say, for example, accounting estimate I'm auditing, whether it's been followed or not. You know, their standards have been followed or not. So that's something which you do. And there are typically you have audit programs, but don't lend your mind to audit program. That's where you commit mistake. I keep telling people who if you want to become an intellectual auditor, take audit program as just a guidance and challenge them. There is always better way to audit. In our profession, unfortunately, we are not doing innovation much. 30 years back, we used to audit the same way. The world has changed so much now, but still we are auditing the same way. I think things are changing, but that's where innovation is very important. That's how you become smart professionals. So just don't lend your think audit program, think on that. So I think that's more critical when you do your any area for that matter. Simply remember, then the other one is non-regression. If I'm doing the same, how the client has complied with VAT in the past, or how the client has complied with GST. If I'm doing the expense audit, how the client has complied with GST or service tax or TDS, all of those things. If the client is not deducting TDS, why is not deducting TDS? That's what should come to your mind because that's non-regulation compliance. So whether it's Companies Act or whatever it may be, I think that's what we need to focus on that from that perspective. So which is very, very important from that perspective, the accounting, the law and regulation, the standard. And once again, as I said, auditing standard, just don't get confused. Assertion, what's my assertion, what's my procedures, what audit evidence I'm looking at, quality of audit evidences, I'm happy or not. Does it all make sense or not? So once you do that, I think that becomes very, very easy for you to do that. Now one particular element in the execution, which I talked about at the beginning, how to audit the accounting estimate. It's not very easy. You can't just pick some samples and just test it over, all happy. Let's take a specific example of warranty. Let's say, for example, I'm doing, 4. I'm giving an example. Somebody asked me to do, please go ahead and just do the warranty audit. So first I need to understand, what are the warranty obligation the client has. Typically they say that 1 lakh kilometer or 5 year, whichever is lower, I think I need to do this, that, and whatever I think. Understand first the obligation. So first, once you understand the obligation, the next thing you need to do is pass record. What the standard talks about. The standard talks about, it's already standard, with these accounting estimate, what's the past track record? How much I have provided, how much I have paid. If I have provided 100 and paid 95, if I have provided 100 and paid 110, fine. But if I have provided 100 and paid 150, then you cannot rely on the manual estimate. You simply cannot rely on that. You need to understand why 150, what really happened there. So understand the past track record, actual versus the on what he has done. Then you go back to the current year once you're satisfied in terms of what is the client is providing based on obligation. How many cars they have the roads, how many warranty period is left out for each car, what they're providing for it, does it make sense for me? Then you can take the sample and test that, including the payment. So I think in accounting estimate, I think you need to understand the process. Look back, look at current, and look at future. If you are doing in September audit for March 2018, you can look at next 6 months what is happening. If the things are happening badly, then you can go back and just say that you boss, I think you are incurring more cost here, whether your provision should go up. So typically, I think, or if you are doing the employee end of service benefit, like gratuity, what sort of assumption the client has taken? Increment assumption, okay, discounting assumption. So assumption becomes very important. Or if you are doing the impairment of goodwill, assumption becomes very important. How much business growth they have taken. For example, if I'm saying that my client tells me that I'm going to grow 15%, the industry is going down 15% down, then you have to challenge it. In the accounting estimate, you need to always think through that this is a management bias. You need to start with that mindset, that there could be some bias here. I need to look at, I think, all the assumptions, do they make sense to me or not? And sometimes in the audit, you also depend upon the experts. Depending on expert, nothing to that, you will give it to me, I just take the work paper, put it and be happy. No. You need to do 3 or 4 things. The standard mandates to first understand the value of competency. Whether the value is competent, first of all. What qualification he has. Then secondly, objectivity. Is it an objective guy? If you just been closely involved in the company, then obviously he doesn't have the objectivity. Is it independent objectivity, competence? Then what sort of data you give to your client? The data makes look, it's all fine. You looked at all the data, assumptions and everything. And then you can understand how he has concluded. Many times when I do the accounting, when I look at the goodwill, business combination, I have a lot of problem, just going through some of the assumptions because people tend to take a very loose picture. Because remember, one accounting, just in increment, if you wrongly take, your pension obligation can come down drastically. If your client wants to book low expenses in the balance sheet, in the profit loss account, he can very well do just changing one delta of increment or just changing one delta of accounting and discounting what they did. So I think estimates, be very, very critical and careful, think through, read. If you don't understand, go back to your principle and do some research and have a proper audit program before you just jump onto it. So that's the accounting estimate, because that's where, and there could be some areas which are very difficult to audit. For example, manufacturing companies, cost of sales is very difficult to audit. I think people do happily purchase it, they forget about it. That's the most significant balance in your P&L account. Sometimes it's automated, sometimes it's not automated. These account balance where it's difficulty, they're always prone to fraud risk. The client knows that the auditor doesn't understand this account balance. You just go and put it there, that's all about it. So that's where I think you need to be extra careful. The moment you go for any audit, what are the difficult account balances in the trial balance which I can have in the audit. Once you're clear on that, then you have your procedure, your principle, what you want to do on that. So that's where the execution plays an important role. Very quickly, I'll come to it on the last phase which I talked about. So documentation, clearly, I think what I want to really say is that your documentation should reflect to someone that what work you have done. So essentially, basically, what was your approach and how did you ensure completeness of population? How did you pick the samples? how do you select, pick the samples, whether it's all throughout the year, how you tested the samples, what you tested, and how you concluded. That should be very clear from your working paper. If I'm doing the sales, I need to make sure that there is sales column, sales worksheet has all the column. The basic price, the GST, so that somebody can really say that how you ensure GST is fine. So think through all the angles so that the external guy can say, okay, he has looked at all in the sales. Similarly on purchases. And as I said, there are some certain assertions which are very important. If you're doing the asset audit, always think through that valuation could be a problem. Liability completeness, like that. I think, I just don't want to repeat on that. I think that's what we need to think through on that. The last phase is completion phase, which is very important. Once again, you've done everything, you've finished the planning, you've finished the execution, you've got all the confirmation, you reconcile. The one area in the execution, other thing apart from accounting estimate, is key reconciliation. Understand the key reconciliation properly in your client. I'm not talking about only bank reconciliation. I'm not talking about sub-ledgers, general ledger reconciliation. I'm talking about customer account balance reconciliation they may be performing, suppliers may be performing, or books versus statutory returns. I see significant challenges in that area. Today we look at GST. Everybody is taking GST credit. Tomorrow when the government does the reconciliation, they might come back to you, sorry boss, I think your guy has not paid, please reverse it. Nobody knows what sort of problems will come through, because that's what I'm asking my client. Apparently you have taken all the credit, boss. When they do the reconciliation, what will happen? He might just ask you to reverse the credit if your supplier has not paid that. So books versus statutory returns is critical thing, whether it could be GST, whether it could be TDS returns, whether it could be PF returns, whether it could be RBI returns on FEMA, they all generate from the books basically. So you need to think through that, I think, whether they are all being reconciled, because many times we get into trouble because of that, we don't look at the reconciliation. And every client has to do the reconciliation on a monthly basis. So if you finished all of those things, in conclusion, what's most important for me? The first and foremost important for you is subsequent event. What events have happened after the balance sheet date? Whether I should be really worried about that. And if you look at the standard, you talk about two events. One, adjusting event, non-adjusting event. If adjusting event, then you go back and just adjust that. What is adjusting event? The condition was existing as on the balance sheet date. For example, customer balance is already there. You have significant problem, the customer is gone bankrupt. So that is adjusting event. You need to go back and adjust that account balances. So that's why I think you need to be clear, is it adjusting event or non-adjusting event. For example, suddenly in Kerala there is a flood now, after balance sheet day. It's non-adjusting event. That requires a disclosure in your financial statement. Right? So that's where you think through on subsequent event. So you can do certain procedures, you can understand, you can discuss with your client, you look at media report, you can look at MIS report, so then you can look at board of directors minutes of meetings post year end, and then conclude, or tax assessment post year end, conclude that yes, there are no subsequent events, we are happy with that, finally conclude that, which is very, very important, because many times I see a lot of issues in that area, because things are changing. When I was doing my articles, I think nothing of that sort used to happen. Today I think next day itself I don't know what will happen. So subsequent event is very important. Then what next? The next is checklist. Every firm, or all of your firms, I think all firms have a checklist. What are the checklists? Essentially, there are certain deliverables which go to your client. The first deliverable is a financial statement. For example, in the Schedule 3 checklist, India's checklist, AS checklist, cargo checklist, companies act checklist, subsequent event checklist, or transfer to reserve checklist in the past. Now it's not there. So you could have different checklists within your firm. Whether all the checklists are properly filled up, are there any issues coming up? Disclosures plays an important role. Don't discount disclosures. It's not that you're only concerned on the balance sheet and income statement, forget about disclosures. For example, if a client is saying, if you are doing the AS audit, you have a lot of disclosures, earning in foreign currency, expenditure in foreign currency, key raw material component. You need to understand from where they are coming in. Certain things come from client balance, certain things doesn't come from client balance. How are you comfortable with that? So even for the disclosures, you need to have proper procedures. You can't just say the disclosures are fine, because disclosures, and India it's animal by itself. Right? Just to give the context, when I used to do HSBC in the old gap in UK, the financial statement was 61 pages. Only 61 pages. When we finalized the first time IFRS, it went to 469 pages. And out of that 350 pages are only disclosures. What disclosures? Risk management, capital management, interest, forex, strategies, all of those things is managed in the standard and financial financial statement, there are a lot of disclosures. So under Ind AS, it's extremely, be very careful on the disclosures. What disclosures your client is making. Because disclosures form part of your financial statement where you sign, right? Your principal sign. So I think notes to accounts and disclosures, checklists, there are various checklists you have, just fill up, see any exceptions are coming there. And there are no exception coming. I think the institute has a lot of guidance for you guys. Right from the cargo, I think there's guidance note, on the Division 2 of Schedule 3, Division 1 of Schedule 3. If you look at all those guidance notes, I think there are checklists available. I think the institute is doing a lot more, to help all of you. So look at all of those things. So finish all the checklists, then comes the financial statement. That's where you do the final conclusion analytics. You did the risk analytics, you did the conclusion analytics, because there's two very important pillars to understand that everything what you have done makes sense. When you do the final conclusion analytics, based on your auditing what you have done, it should look all fine. Or there's some unusual item coming through if you need to do certain more work in that area. Suddenly something comes up which you're not factored in. And one particular risk which I talked in the beginning is the management of control. Essentially, auditing standard mandates 2 or 3 things. Already I spoke about accounting estimate, I spoke about related party, I spoke about key reconciliation. One other thing is journal testing. Understanding the journal is very important. Because from journal entries, I can just flip the entire account balance, right? So what is that you need to understand? You need to understand why journal entries are passed, who approves the journal entries, and how I ensure the completeness of the journal entries. So obviously the standard mandates you do the opening to closing reconciliation of the trial balance. Then you pick the journal entries on some criteria. Normally, if you one thing you remember, if you pick any criteria on value terms, top 10 journal entries I want to take. In standards, you need to think about the untested population. If my untested population is below above materiality, then I have to do some work on that. So journal entries typically nobody picks up on the monetary threshold. Even if you pick on monetary threshold, you will take some risk threshold. For example, I want to look at journal entries passed at the year end. I want to look at journal entries under unusual account combination. For example, sales to debtors or cash. You might say that, look, I want to know any entry passed, obviously crediting sales but debiting something else, not cash and debtors, which is called an account combination. So you might have different criteria for journal entries, or you want to say keywords like fraud, bribe payment. Some keyword you can define the computer. It can pick up if there is any kind of a narration. So you do that and then you test it, because that's one important step for you to kind of address the management of control. So that then you do the final conclusion analytics and then financial statement review. Financial statement review is a very, very critical. So you have to be sure, if you are doing AS audit, you've got to be thorough with Schedule 3 Part 1, Division 1. It's not too much actually, it's just about 12 pages. Read 10 times, you become expert in that area. Similarly, if it's Ind AS, Schedule 3 Division 2, it's about 21 pages. Read that all, you become expert in that area. Or there are illustrative financial statement published on many Big 4 firms. Download that. Or any other firm for that matter. Or your own firm has a illustrative financial statement, look at that. Whether that's comparing with what has been, kind of looked at it. Because that will give, I think you should always make sure that, you understand all the financials. The best thing what I used to do when I used to be article like you, I used to try to read a lot of financials. I used to read ITC, I used to read, Unilever, Hindustan Unilever. I used to do a lot of reading. That's how I got a lot of information how the financial statements stack up. So you just take it download and read through that. I think you will understand what are the issues, what are the disclosures are there. If it's missing, you can easily pick up. So financial statement review is very important. Then the other most important thing, for me, I think is when I came back to India, I think it took a while for me to understand this curve. There is no country on this earth where auditor issues 4.5-page audit report. Not a single country I've seen. I spent almost 17, 18 countries I've spent an audit guy. Half-page report to 1-page report. In India, whenever I look at the CARO or the 3CA report or 3CP report, it always worries me a lot. Lot more onerous we take. If you ask the CARO, right from fixed asset, inventory, what is missing now is that the labor family problem. Sometimes they will bring that also one day. The auditor has to certify that the labor family is happy and is, I don't know. They may come back to that actually. Because there are a lot of things in that I don't know how I can certify. For example, any non-transaction with the director. So what is non-cash transaction? There is one clause which always varies when I am signing. So the CARO is very dangerous. And we as a your principal or any fraternity or when you guys become chartered accountant starts signing, that is your critical output for the external world. So think through every clause very seriously. Every clause, whether it's fixed asset, inventory, 186, 185, 189 section, or your remittances, or money raised, how it's been spent, any default on the borrowings, any frauds, any related party transaction, all have been covered in that. And even contingency have been covered there, disputes are covered there, forward covers are covered there in the main report. So for every assertion in your audit report, you need to have the work paper. For example, one of the assertions is that look, the client has done physical verification of fixed asset, there is no material discrepancy. That's what you say, right? The work paper has to tell that yes, they did it, and this was the discrepancy, it's not material. You have to conclude that. Similarly, inventory, right? So that is the actually bedrock of your work and your opinion. If tomorrow something goes wrong, you can say that look, on that particular date, this is what I did, this is what I found, this is how I concluded. So that has to be documented in a file very, very carefully. The checklist and the work paper will help you for each assertion. And for example, there is one particular, finally I think you say whether there is a registration requirement under 45(1)(c) of RBI, right? Your client requires the license. Normally I think that is there because many companies are doing activity which requires RBI kind of license, but they are not taking. That's why they have inserted that. So make sure that you understand the cargo. And once again, I think my take to is that you look at the guidance, the ICI guidance on the cargo, the 2016 report. I think that's pretty comprehensive. Or you can look at 140-10, the fraud guidance. What note it has to do. So look at all of those things. And also ICI has a lot of good material on the audit program, right? From how to audit share capital to expenses, the ICI is there. If in your firm, if you have, then well, good enough. If you don't, then just rely on the ICI publications. It has also checklist audit program. You can use that. So I think that cargo is very important there. Then once you do that, what next will be in conclusion? In conclusion, you need to look at are there any deficiencies in the audit? If you are in internal control, you are giving the IFC opinion, are there any deficiencies? If there are deficiencies, are there any compensating control for that? Or not, then I think obviously you will qualify your IFC report. Similarly, you need to look at are there unadjusted errors, which is called basically they are not adjusted, are they material? If they are material, how they impact on the controls, how they impact on financial statement, whether we have to modify our opinion, whether we have to disclaim the opinion. So those are all judgment will be taken by your principal based on the work what you do. So that form part of your completion activity. From that perspective, deficiencies and all of those things. So once you do that, I think you need to make sure that you put together all the audit work paper properly. Because within 60 days, you have to archive the file. In fact, the standard talks about once your principal sign an audit report. So today is the 8th September. If I am signing a report as your principal today, you cannot change anything in the documents from tomorrow. If you change it, then obviously you are not complying with the standard. It does give very, kind of leeway to you. You could change if there is certain administration you want to do that. You can't get any new audit evidences after signing. So basically, I think you want to say that look, I think I want to number this paper, which is called administration activity. In that case, what the standard mandates you to do, you have to write what you have changed, who changed, what you have changed, and somebody has to approve that. So that you have to document your work paper. So that's something which you do that. And today the concept of permanent working paper also you have in the past, where all the contracts and everything you tend to, this current audit file is a previous audit file. So that's also some firm doesn't follow because it's part of the electronic, this one you can roll forward that. So I think that's something the archive is important, is very, very important from that perspective. So in a nutshell, this is what involved in the audit if I to really take you through practically. So I think from that perspective, I think if you have any questions or something, it's more from interaction. I think for 5 minutes I can do that before I think, or I have some time. So that's what it is. I think if you have anything in your, and as I said, I think ICI has excellent materials. Just go to ICI website, even I do that today also. You have all sorts of things. Thanks to Institute, they are taking a lot of proactive measures, doing a lot of things with profession. It's up to you how you want to take that knowledge and implement that. There is no dearth of knowledge today. The only question is that how much you want to apply, how you want to apply. And especially if you are doing the banks, it's a highly regulated area. You've got to be top of the RBI guidance, the circulars. You need to understand that. And for that, I think one thing I suggest the best thing to do to understand the banks. As the Banking Regulation Act under Section 34, RBI has to submit a report to central government on the banking industry. Every year, Majeed Patel or maybe in the past, Ram Rajan used to submit that report as mandated. It goes to Parliament. Read that report. It's free of cost. Just go to RBI website, download that. You will get all issues bank is facing. Similar report is there under the IRDA also, insurance. So you don't have to just, there's a bank audit guidance notice also there, but apart from that you can go back. You've got to have the healthy reading on the circulars. I think that's where, challenges come through in that area. Or even NBFCs also, you have different kind of, guidance is also there are circulars. So that's what I said in the beginning. It is highly regulated, you've got to be extremely careful. And listed companies, you've got to be on top of the listing requirement, the listing regulation of SEBI. Whether it's LODR 215, 216, 217 or 218, I think they have made some changes now, which is also very important from that perspective. Any other questions you have, or I hope I was able to just take you through in a very, kind of very non-complicated way. Anything which comes to mind? Any questions? We have some time. No? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights. I now request Treasurer of ICI Bangalore Branch, CA B.T. Shetty, sir, to present CA Abdul, sir, with a memento as a token of appreciation. I now request Lakshmi, member of SICASA, to give the vote of thanks.
On behalf of SICASA Bangalore, I would like to extend my gratitude to our chief guest, CA Cyrus, sir. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the speaker, CA Abdul, sir, for valuable insights and for the encouraging section. I would also like to thank the Treasurer of Bangalore Branch, CA B.T. Shetty, sir, for assisting us by being a part of the session. I would also like to thank our Chairman of SICASA Bangalore, CA Srinivas, sir, for encouraging and providing the necessary assistance for the successful conduct of the session. I put forth a big thank you for the audience for their presence and making the session interesting. An event to be successful requires a lot of preparations. I take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the staff of Bangalore Branch and the student committee of SICASA for their assistance and involvement in making the session a successful one. Thank you, everyone. Now that the session is over, I promote about the future SICASA events. Like all of you know, and Manjula ma'am has already been telling, on 15th September we have the rankers meet. So how the session goes is, each ranker will be assigned to a group of 10 or 15 students, and you can interact with the ranker and understand what their strategies were. And then on 22nd we have the mental success program. This is just to prepare you mentally to take up your exams. So this particular session will happen in Racecourse Road again. So I urge all of you to participate in the sessions. And of course, B.T. Shetty sir has told about the Speakers Forum, SICASA Speakers Forum. It's a platform which develops your public speaking